April 8, 1943. 27,000 feet above Conques, France. Oberleutnant Ralph Hermican, a veteran ace, watched massive Republic P-47 Thunderbolts laboriously climbing towards his Focke-Wulf 190. His oxygen mask couldn't hide a smirk. "They've sent us flying milk bottles," he transmitted to his wingman, suppressing laughter. Below them, 16 P-47C Thunderbolts of the 4th Fighter Group, their 2,000 horsepower engines straining against 7 tons of weight, lumbered upward. 2 German pilots, accustomed to sleek Spitfires, these American machines appeared comical. Barrel-shaped fuselages, greenhouse canopies, wings too small for their bodies, propellers dwarfing anything in the Luftwaffe. What Hermican didn't know, what none of the German pilots, circling like wolves above, could have imagined, was that they were witnessing the arrival of the weapon that would systematically destroy the Luftwaffe's fighter arm. Within 18 months, these flying milk bottles would transform from objects of derision into instruments of terror. Their 8.50 caliber Browning machine guns would become the most feared sound in German skies. The mathematics of destruction were already loaded in those broad wings. 3,400 rounds of ammunition, a combined rate of fire of 6,000 rounds per minute, enough concentrated firepower to cut a Messerschmitt in half in less than 2 seconds. This story is about how industrial logic defeated tactical brilliance, how quantity and quality merged into overwhelming superiority, and how German pilots' laughter turned to terror as they discovered what synchronized Browning machine guns could do to an aircraft at 400 yards. The P-47 Thunderbolt emerged from a panic. In June 1940, as German fighters swept across France, Republic Aviation's chief designer, Alexander Kartveli, received urgent specifications for a high-altitude interceptor. Kartveli designed a monster. "It will be a dinosaur," he admitted, "but a dinosaur with good proportions." The XP-47B prototype, first flown in May 1941, weighed 65% more than its predecessor. Its massive turbo supercharger system gave it an almost pregnant appearance. Test pilots invariably asked, "This thing actually flies?" Not only did it fly, it flew like nothing else at altitude. Its Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp engine, producing 2,000 horsepower, could maintain full power at 27,000 feet, where German fighters gasped for air. Major Hubert Hub Zemp, commanding the 56th Fighter Group, initially despised it. The P-47 killed more Americans in training than Germans would in the first months of combat, ground looping on landing, torque rolling on takeoff, and diving with such enthusiasm that pilots discovered compressibility. But those who mastered it discovered something extraordinary. Lieutenant Robert Johnson, who would become one of America's top aces, described his first flight. "It was like strapping yourself to a locomotive. The power was unbelievable. You didn't fly it, you aimed it." Early combat encounters in April and May 1943 seemed to confirm German prejudice. P-47s couldn't turn with Focke-Wulf 190s, couldn't climb with Messerschmitt 109s. Joseph Pipsprittler, commander of JG-26, reported, "The new American fighter is meat for the slaughter. It flies like a truck, turns like a freight train, and climbs like a pregnant cow." But something strange was happening. P-47s that were shot down had absorbed incredible punishment. One returned from a May 4th mission with 21 cannon holes and over 100 machine gun strikes damage that would have disintegrated a Messerschmitt or Spitfire. The massive radial engine, lacking vulnerable coolant systems, shrugged off hits that would have stopped a liquid-cooled fighter cold. The event that began changing German perceptions occurred on June 26, 1943, over Lisieux, France. Second Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson, flying at the rear of his P-47 formation, was caught in the crossfire of multiple Focke-Wulf 190s 20mm cannon shells exploded across his aircraft. The canopy shattered, hydraulic fluid sprayed, fire erupted. Johnson, wounded, tried to bail out, but a 20mm shell had welded the canopy shut. He was trapped in a dying aircraft at 27,000 feet. What happened next defied every assumption. Despite no forward visibility, a barely functioning engine, and intermittent controls, Johnson leveled the P-47 and pointed it towards England. The aircraft continued flying with damage that would have reduced any other fighter to debris. Then, a lone Focke-Wulf 190 discovered the crippled Thunderbolt limping at less than 170 miles per hour. The German pilot opened fire with 4 20mm cannons and 2 13mm machine guns. Johnson huddled behind his armor plate. The Thunderbolt absorbed the entire cannon ammunition load. The German repositioned and fired again, this time with only machine guns. Still, the P-47 flew. The German pulled alongside, staring in disbelief, his expression shifting from confidence to confusion to something approaching fear. He emptied his remaining machine gun ammunition, then shook his head, gave an informal salute, and peeled away. Johnson's P-47 landed at Manston. The crew chief stopped counting bullet holes after reaching 200. 3 of the fuselage's main longerons were shot through. Yet, the aircraft had brought him home. By July 1943, American pilots were learning to exploit the P-47's true strengths. Lieutenant Colonel Hubert Zemp, the once skeptical commander, had discovered the secret: don't turn with them. Don't climb with them at low altitude. Use your weight, use your power, use your guns. The Thunderbolt's massive weight, initially a disadvantage, became a weapon. In a dive, nothing could catch it. From 30,000 feet, a P-47 could reach 550 miles per hour, faster than any German fighter, even in a vertical dive. This speed could be converted to altitude in a zoom climb that left pursuing fighters helplessly behind. This boom and zoom tactic created an impenetrable wall of lead. Aircraft caught in this convergence pattern didn't just fall, they disintegrated. The true revelation of American firepower came on August 17, 1943, during the deep penetration raids on Schweinfurt and Regensburg. Major David Schilling, leading his squadron, encountered Messerschmitt 110 destroyer aircraft. Untermaleiter Henrik Roth, a gunner in one of the Me-110s, later recounted, "The American fighters came down like hammers from heaven. I opened fire at 800 meters, good hits. The P-47 didn't even wobble. Then he fired. The aircraft ahead of us simply came apart. Not shot down, destroyed. Wings separated, tails severed. The crew compartment shredded into metal confetti. In 2 seconds, an Me-110 became nothing. 8 Me-110s were destroyed in less than a minute. The Germans had never experienced such concentrated firepower. Each P-47 carried 425 rounds per gun, 3,400 rounds total, allowing for over 30 seconds of sustained fire. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Gabby Gabreski, America's top ace in Europe, described the effect: when you hit them with all 8, they don't just go down, they explode. I saw a 109 literally cut in half. By September 1943, the Luftwaffe discovered another horrifying reality. The P-47's performance improved dramatically with altitude. Its turbo-supercharged engine maintained power up to 30,000 feet, while German fighters degraded above 25,000 feet. Oberleutnant Hans Philipp, one of Germany's most successful aces with 206 victories, encountered this fatally on October 8, 1943. Leading his Focke-Wulf 190s at 28,000 feet, he found his aircraft sluggish. P-47s of the 56th Fighter Group dove from 32,000 feet. Robert Johnson, now an experienced ace, spotted Phillips' distinctive Focke-Wulf. Johnson's combat report was clinical. Opened fire at 300 yards. Observed strikes along entire fuselage. Enemy aircraft exploded. No parachute observed. Phillips' death sent shockwaves through the Luftwaffe. The German High Command ordered an investigation. The report was sobering. The Thunderbolt's service ceiling exceeded 42,000 feet. Its dive speed approached the sound barrier, and its rugged construction allowed it to absorb damage that would destroy 3 conventional fighters and still return home. In January 1944, new P-47D-22 variants arrived, completing the transformation. Featuring a 13-foot paddle blade propeller, their climb rate soared to 3,000 feet per minute, matching or exceeding German fighters. Feldwebel Heinz, Noke of JG-11 wrote in his diary, "The fat American fighters have learned to climb. These are not the same machines we laughed at last year." The massive propeller also changed the Thunderbolt's sound. The distinctive thundering roar, caused by blade tips reaching supersonic speeds, could be heard miles away. German ground troops called it Donnerschlag, thunderclap. By March 1944, P-47s, equipped with external fuel tanks, could escort bombers deep into Germany. Their endurance allowed them to remain with bombers for hours. As more P-51 Mustangs took over long-range escort, P-47s increasingly focused on ground attack, a role that would make them the most feared aircraft in the German arsenal. The .50 caliber battery proved devastating against ground targets, penetrating vehicle top armor and shredding soft targets. The addition of bombs and rockets transformed the P-47 into a true multi-role monster. Later variants carried a bomb load equal to early war medium bombers, plus 10 5-inch high-velocity rockets, each equivalent to a 105mm artillery shell. Oberst Hans von Luck, commanding a Panzer Grenadier regiment in Normandy, experienced P-47 ground attacks firsthand. They came in low. The sound was terrifying, engines roaring, rockets screaming. Then the hammer of those heavy machine guns. A column of our trucks simply ceased to exist. 20 vehicles transformed into burning wreckage in one pass. They were flying artillery with the accuracy of snipers. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, over 500 P-47s provided an impenetrable umbrella over the beaches. German fighters attempting to reach the landing zones were massacred. Oberleutnant Wolfgang Fischer, one of only 3 German pilots to reach the beaches that day, reported, "The sky belonged to the Americans. Thunderbolts were stacked from sea level to 30,000 feet. Their guns turned our fighters into aluminum rain." In the weeks following, P-47s systematically destroyed German movement by daylight. The Wehrmacht was forced to move only at night. Even against German jet fighters, the P-47 proved deadly. On November 27, 1944, Lieutenant Colonel John C. Myers became one of the first to shoot down an Me-262 with a P-47, catching the jet in a high-speed dive. Myers' combat report noted, "The enemy aircraft disintegrated under fire. The concentrated fire of 8.50 caliber guns proved more effective than we anticipated against jet aircraft." By early 1945, specialized P-47M variants, boosting power to 2,800 horsepower, could reach 470 miles per hour in level flight, fast enough to intercept jets under certain conditions. Major George Bostwick, who shot down to Me-262s in March 1945, emphasized, "The jets are faster, but they can't turn and they can't take punishment. One good burst from our battery and they come apart like they're made of paper." The ultimate demonstration of American industrial might came during Operation Bodenplatte, the Luftwaffe's desperate attempt to destroy Allied air power on January 1, 1945. German fighters destroyed 22 P-47s on the ground at Y-34 airfield. A captured German pilot taunted, "What do you think of that?" Major George Brooking's response became legendary. He pointed to the flight line where ground crews were clearing debris. "By tomorrow, we'll have 40 new ones. How long will it take you to replace your pilots?" The Germans' smirk disappeared. Within 48 hours, factory-fresh P-47D4OS filled the flight line. The Luftwaffe lost 271 aircraft and 213 irreplaceable pilots. The Americans lost 134, all replaced within a week. Republic Aviation produced 15,683 P-47s during the war. At peak production, the Farmingdale factory completed 1 Thunderbolt every hour, around the clock. The Evansville plant, built from empty farmland in 1942, was producing 500 aircraft per month by 1944. Each P-47D required 65,000 individual parts, 8 miles of electrical wiring, and 2,000 pounds of aluminum. American workers, many of them women who had never seen an aircraft before Pearl Harbor, assembled these complex machines with precision. Ammunition production was equally staggering. Over 10 million rounds of .50 caliber per month by mid-1944. Even more impressive was pilot training. By 1944, the United States graduated 30,000 pilots annually, each with a minimum of 400 hours of flight training before combat. German pilots by war's end were entering combat with less than 100 hours total. Lieutenant Eugene Roberts, arriving in England in September 1944, exemplified this. I had 420 hours in my logbook. My first mission, I knew exactly what to do. The German pilot I faced couldn't have had half my experience. It wasn't even a fair fight. In March 1945, Joseph Priller, who once mocked the P-47s as pregnant cows, was interviewed by German propaganda. His statement, deemed too demoralizing for publication, revealed the complete transformation in German attitudes. The Thunderbolt is the best fighter bomber ever built. Its firepower is unprecedented. But beyond the machine is what it represents. Unlimited American production. They lose 10, they build 20. We lose 1, it's gone forever. Their pilots arrive better trained than our instructors. We have nothing but courage. And courage without resources is just delayed defeat. We laughed at them in 1943. We're not laughing now. When you hear those guns, you know death has come calling. The sound haunts us. Like everything American, it's about overwhelming material superiority. They didn't beat us through better tactics or braver pilots. They buried us under an avalanche of steel and lead. By April 1945, the Luftwaffe existed largely on paper. Feldwebel Klaus Brechner, one of the last German pilots trained in 1945, flew exactly 1 combat mission before the war ended. His encounter with P-47s over Leipzig lasted 12 seconds. I saw them diving from above. I tried to turn, but they were too fast. The leader fired from 500 meters. My aircraft shook like it was hit by sledgehammers. The engine exploded. The wing separated. I barely escaped. In the parachute, I watched them destroy my entire staffel. 6 fighters gone in under a minute. The psychological impact was complete. German pilots developed Jabo fever, physical symptoms of stress appearing when Thunderbolts were reported. Veterans who had faced Spitfires without fear became physically ill before missions against P-47s. In 1985, General Adolf Galland, former head of the Luftwaffe fighter arm, was asked about the P-47. His response, recorded on video, captured the complete transformation. We made a terrible mistake in 1943. We saw this big, heavy fighter and laughed. We said they built a bomber and called it a fighter. We were the ones who didn't understand. The Americans didn't try to build a European fighter. They built an American one, designed around production, firepower, and survivability. They understood that in a war of attrition, the plane that could take punishment and deliver devastating firepower would win. They were right. Those guns, we called them Roosevelt's piano, because of the sound they made. Once you heard that sound, you never forgot it. Many of my friends heard it for the last time. The P-47 didn't just defeat the Luftwaffe, it destroyed it. The P-47 Thunderbolt entered combat as an object of derision and ended the war as an instrument of annihilation. In between, 8 synchronized Browning machine guns rewrote the rules of aerial warfare and buried the Luftwaffe under an avalanche of lead. German pilots had laughed at the ungainly American fighter in April 1943. By May 1945, there were no German pilots left to laugh. The thunder had spoken, and the sky belonged to America.